To have you with us. It's quite a title, the Competition Commission Commissioner. Just fun to say. Thank you for coming in this evening. Just how much of a victory is this for the Competition Commission? Because this has been an ongoing battle, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think it's quite big for the Commission. I would imagine it's even bigger for the South African consumers of data, the customers and potential customers of Vodacom. But yeah, for the team, this is quite good news, and everybody's celebrating.
I'm sure 55 million South Africans are celebrating, or whatever the subscription fee is for Vodacom, one of the biggest in the country. When it now came to how the Competition Commission was able to reach an agreement, again, I realize you can't give away details, but how were you able to bring Vodacom, A, to the table, and then B, bring those costs down? Because many conversations years ago, Vodacom and the other networks were saying they simply can't bring costs down due to bandwidth and many other factors about keeping their networks going. How have you now managed to save South Africans almost 30%?
Well, I think the first thing is that we did a thorough investigation in our market inquiry. The benchmarks we did, I think, were pretty strong. The benchmarking studies we did, and I think that also we decided deliberately that we would craft recommendations in such a way that there is a way out. In other words, there was a possibility that we could have pursued litigation for excessive pricing. We're allowed to do that in terms of the Competition Act. But we said, if you enter into an agreement with us that would see price drops by 30 to 50%, then we will drop the case. And this is what happened. So we did a fantastic study, I think comprehensive study, but also gave them a way out of that. And I think they saw the opportunity that this was an opportunity to enter into some kind of a social compact. And this is what the CEO was saying today.
You mentioned a social compact. Many would argue that this entire campaign and this now victory for the Competition Commission and subscribers was actually a social campaign which started all those years ago. Data must fall, costs must fall, all those various movements. So Vodacom customers are going to be very happy tonight. What's happening with MTN and Telkom subscribers? What's happening there? Can you tell me?
We are talking to MTN. We are actually quite advanced in our discussions with them. However, nothing is agreed until it's been agreed and signed. So I'm hoping that in the next coming days, we should be able to conclude that process.
You mentioned earlier the Vodacom CEO, that being, of course, Jamil Jusub. He was saying in reaction to this that data prices, and I'm not sure if you were speaking for Vodacom or the other networks, as or would fall even more if government allocated spectrum. As part of your market research as the Competition Commission, did spectrum come into how to cost this, how to reduce the costs? Was that a relevant factor?
Well, we found that the prices were high, and spectrum, yes, played a role, but it was not the sole reason why our costs were at the level where they were, which is why we entered into this independent of the process to allocate spectrum. But spectrum does lower costs. I mean, that's just a scientific reality, that the costs for these operators are going to come down quite significantly with the allocation of spectrum. And with that, we should see the prices also coming down.
Just before I say goodbye to you for this evening, Tim Nkosi, why were the prices so high? Because unless the Competition Commission had come on board and fought for South Africans on the Vodacom network, they would still be paying exorbitant fees for data. Why were they so high to start with? What were the reasons given?
This is a highly contested issue. We have put forward in our report that there is lack of competition. So in other words, competition doesn't work in this area. You have 4 operators. 2 are very powerful. In fact, one of them even more powerful, and that's Vodacom. To a point where, sometimes even when there is a price war that a smaller operator brings, the larger operators don't even have to respond, because the smaller operator will quickly run out of capacity, and that will not be effective for purposes of bringing prices down. So ultimately it boils down to competition. Competition has not worked, and that's the reason why a competition authority like ourselves has to get involved on pricing matters, because usually the market should set the price. The fact that we get involved is by itself an indication of a market failure.
And how do you now balance this market? Can we expect to see more cell phone providing network providers coming in? Are we going to see more local competition, more international competition? Could we see other companies giving Vodacom, MTN, Telkom, etc., a run for their money? Is that hopefully what you would like to see?
Yes, absolutely. This is just a beginning. Others have to respond, with price drops at this level. We expect that competition will have to respond, otherwise they lose subscribers. So I think it's going to be interesting to watch what happens in the next coming days.
I appreciate your time coming in. Good news for South Africans this evening, and thank you for your time this evening. Competition Commission Commissioner, Mr. Thembi Nkosi-Bonakele, joining us. Good news for Vodacom subscribers. Data prices coming down from the 1st of April.